Mara Sinclair hesitated at the edge of the stone terrace, the air scented with white roses and sea salt. Just beyond the arch of lilies stood her son, tall, radiant, dressed like the man she'd only seen in photographs. He laughed with his bride as the string quartet played something soft and smug. No one knew who Mara was. That was the plan. She clutched the envelope in her purse. Inside, the final transfer confirmation. $2. $3 million that paid for this wedding, this dream, this life her son thought he built alone. And now the bride was walking toward her, eyes narrow, smile sharp. "You don't belong here," she whispered. "Turn around. This is a private event." Mara met her gaze and smiled, just slightly.
"I didn't come for vengeance. I came for the truth."
She didn't come for vengeance. She came for the truth. A champagne cork popped in the distance as the Lake Como sun glinted off crystal chandeliers and polished marble. Waiters in white jackets floated through the garden with flutes and figs. Everything gleamed with curated perfection, just as Isla Prescott, now Sinclair, had planned. Mara stood at the gate still, fingers brushing the iron. Her dress was simple. Not cheap, not loud, but it was the kind of elegance that didn't scream. It whispered. "Ma'am, please step aside," a younger usher said, unsure whether to be firm or polite. His eyes scanned her like a security risk. Isla stepped in again, high heels precise against the stone. Her diamond bracelet caught the light like a weapon. "I said she's not on the list." "I'm not here to cause trouble," Mara said, voice low, "just to leave something for the groom." Isla laughed softly, tilting her head. "He doesn't know you. He's moved on. Don't make this about you." The words were surgical, practiced. Isla was used to being the center of everything. Her father a media mogul, her mother a senator. Every inch of her life was tailored to image, and Mara didn't fit it. But Julian Sinclair hadn't always belonged to her world. He once belonged to Mara's. Back when his little hands clung to her neck at night, before the lies, before her exile. Inside the villa, Mara heard the string quartet switch to Clair de Lune, Julian's favorite piece as a child, the one she played on a cheap keyboard when their apartment echoed with hunger and hope. He'd grown into a man now, brilliant, polished, and wrong about everything. He believed she'd abandoned him, that she'd stolen from the family and vanished, that she was the shameful secret no one dared mention, because that's what they told him, the truth. Mara had been arrested for theft, a diamond watch missing from the Prescott estate, and pressured to plead guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. No one asked questions. No one stood up for the housekeeper, and by the time she got out, he was gone, adopted, rebranded. She never blamed him for not looking back. What he didn't know was that the tech company he'd co-founded, the one that had just hit unicorn status and funded this wedding, it started with a loan, an anonymous investor, a company called Minerva 81, named after the street where Mara lived after prison, rebuilding from nothing. He never connected the dots. No one had. Mara reached into her purse and pulled out the envelope. White, heavy, embossed. Inside was a letter, not of anger, but origin. His origin. She handed it to the usher. "Please, just make sure he gets this." The usher hesitated, glancing to Isla. Isla's smile was pure glass. "You can drop it at the front. Security will handle it." Mara looked past her just once, through the open archways and chiffon curtains, and saw Julian. He was laughing. He didn't even know she was 20 feet away. And then something shifted. A sound, a voice, someone behind her. "Excuse me," the voice said, low, nervous. "You're Mara Sinclair, aren't you?" She turned and froze. The man who spoke had sandy hair, a crooked tie, and the kind of nervous energy that didn't belong at a wedding this perfect. He held a clipboard in one hand, half covered by a linen napkin. His name tag read, "Liam D., Event Coordination Intern. I was told to be on standby in case of family irregularities," he said, glancing around like he was breaking some sacred rule. "They described you. I was curious, honestly. But then I saw the name on the card. He lifted the envelope in Mara's hand and pointed to the small logo on the back, a stylized owl and the number 81. "You're Minerva," he whispered. "You're the Minerva." Mara's breath hitched. No one at this wedding should have known. She'd built her fortune behind layers of legal insulation, proxies, blind trusts. But this kid, this intern, had somehow connected the dots. She considered denying it, but something about his eyes, bright, a little broken, like he knew something about being invisible, stopped her. "I was," she said quietly. He blinked. "You funded Sinclair Plus's seed round, right? And their first hardware pivot. That accessibility for all campaign. My kid's sister uses your tech. She walks now. It changed our lives." Mara nodded, silent. Liam swallowed. "So why are you out here? And not in there?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. His eyes shifted toward Idla, who stood like a sentry by the arch, laughing into her phone now, probably securing a brand deal or blocking a guest list edit. Liam followed the gaze, then looked back at Mara. "You're not on the list, on purpose, aren't you?" Mara only said, "It's not my day." He looked at her like he didn't believe that. Not for a second. "Okay, here's the thing," Liam whispered, stepping closer. "They think you're nobody, but I run the logistics board. If you want to leave something for the groom, I can make it officially appear." He held out his hand. Mara stared at him. For the first time today, she felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Allyship. She gave him the envelope. As Liam walked off, she turned again toward the wedding. Only this time her eyes lingered not on her son, but on Isla. The bride stood talking to an older man now. Silver-haired, sharp, the kind of power that walks like it owns the weather. Senator Prescott. He gestured discreetly. Isla nodded. The tension between them was quiet but surgical. Then Isla's phone buzzed and she turned her back to him, face hardening. Mara's instincts kicked in. That wasn't a father-daughter bond. It was a negotiation. And then she remembered something. A moment years ago, buried under court documents and heartbreak. A watch. Not the one Mara was accused of stealing, but another, slimmer, gold, with an engraving too faint to read. Isla wore it now, half hidden under her veil. It had belonged to Julian's birth father, the man who'd fired Mara, called her a thief, and disappeared into political favor. And Mara suddenly knew Isla didn't just not want her at the wedding. She couldn't risk her being there, because the truth wasn't just about who Mara was, it was about who Isla wasn't. She turned to leave, but someone was already waiting by the garden steps. A face she never thought she'd see again. He looked older than she remembered, leaner, eyes darker. The beard was new, but the posture was the same, shoulders tight like every word might hurt. "Julian," Mara whispered. He didn't smile, didn't speak right away, just looked at her, his jaw clenched, hands shoved deep into his tuxedo pockets. "How long were you standing there?" she asked. "Long enough," he said. His voice had weight now, not the soft boy she once read bedtime stories to. This voice could pitch to VCs, command boardrooms, marry into dynasties. Mara nodded slowly, letting the silence sit between them. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said. "I thought you were dead." Her throat tightened. "You thought I disappeared." That, too. Wind curled between them. The sound of the wedding crowd, clinking glasses, soft applause, faded into background. He took a step closer. "Is it true, what that intern said? About Minerva?" Mara held his gaze. "I didn't come here for credit, just to give you a choice. The truth or the version you've been sold." He looked away, eyes scanning the lake, his reflection rippling in the water. "They told me you left, that you took money and vanished, that you didn't want me." "I know," she said. "That was the point, to erase me clean. And the truth?" She pulled in a breath. "They framed me, Julian. Your grandfather, your stepmother. I spent 2 years in prison. When I got out, you were gone, adopted, protected, groomed for a new life. You should have fought harder," he snapped, but the edge in his voice cracked under its own weight. "I tried," she said, "but they had money, power, and you had hope. I wasn't going to rip that away just to be right. His mouth opened, then closed. He stared at her like trying to rewrite every childhood memory all at once. Then, quietly, "Why now?" She reached into her clutch and pulled out a small item, wrapped in soft cloth. She unfolded it slowly, revealing a worn photo. Julian at age 5 on her shoulders, grinning with 2 missing front teeth. "It's not about now," she said. "It's about then. You deserve to know the whole story before stepping into a future built on half of one." He looked down at the photo, and something cracked in him, not loud but deep. "I saw Ela talking to your grandfather," she added. "She's wearing a watch, your father's. The same one I was accused of stealing." Julian flinched. "That watch, it was supposed to be lost." "No, it was used." A long silence followed. Then Julian said, "I funded my first prototype with money from Minerva. You were the silent backer." "Yes." His eyes closed. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because you were thriving, and I wasn't sure if that light came from me or in spite of me." His voice wavered. "You saved me, and I never even looked for you." She touched his hand. Once, gently. "You weren't supposed to." Suddenly, footsteps clicked fast on the stone. Sharp, practiced, furious. Isla. She had seen them. "I knew it," she hissed, storming toward them. "I knew something felt off. What is this? A little reunion? A charity moment?" Julian stepped in front of Mara. "Isla, no." Isla snapped. "She's not family. You said she was dead. I was wrong. She's a criminal. She's the reason this wedding is even happening." Isla froze. "What?" "The funding," Julian said. "My company, my tech. The reason you said yes to marrying me." Her face drained. "She told you that?" "No, I figured it out just now." The silence thudded between them like thunder. And then Mara saw it. In Isla's eyes, something darker than rage. Fear. Julian turned to Mara. "She's hiding something, isn't she?" Mara nodded once. "You need to ask her about the watch." But before he could, a crash erupted from the villa, a scream. A tray dropped, glass shattered, and someone yelled, "Call security now!" The crowd inside the villa parted like silk torn at the seams. Mara pushed through the guests just as Julian caught up, his jacket off now, his bow tie undone. Somewhere behind them, Ela barked commands into a phone, her voice cracking around the edges. At the center of the chaos, 2 security guards held back a man in a torn white jacket, the head caterer, face flushed, hands trembling. His tray had shattered against the floor. A small velvet box lay cracked open beside the broken glass, a ring box, the one Isla had planned to use for the ceremonial second vow. "What happened?" Julian demanded. The caterer looked at him with frantic eyes. I dropped it by accident, but, sir, the ring, it wasn't the same one we were given." "What do you mean?" Mara asked, stepping beside her son. The caterer shook his head, breath short. "The original ring, the diamond, it's gone, replaced with this." He bent down, pulled the velvet box from the floor and opened it. Inside was a different ring, simpler, older. The band was thin, slightly dented, but the engraving inside was unmistakable. "To MS, for all seasons, DS." Mara's knees went weak. She knew that ring. It was hers, the one she thought was lost when they ransacked her apartment. The one David Sinclair, Julian's birth father, gave her the day he promised to leave the Prescott estate with her and their son. He never did. And now, somehow, the ring had found its way back. Here today, planted in a box meant for the public vows of the woman who'd helped erase her. Julian stared at it, speechless. "How did this get in there?" he asked. The caterer shook his head. "I swear we didn't switch anything. We followed the exact inventory list sent by the bride's planner. The ring was already in the box." A ripple of murmurs spread through the guests. Phones started coming out. Whispers, eyes shifting, and from across the room, Senator Prescott was watching, still, unblinking, like a chess player who just realized his queen was exposed. Mara stepped back, her heart pounding. This wasn't a mistake, it was a message, or a trap. And suddenly, she understood. Isla didn't just fear Mara's presence. She feared what Mara might accidentally uncover, because Isla hadn't just inherited wealth and influence. She had inherited secrets. Julian turned sharply toward Isla. Where did this ring come from? Isla didn't speak. She blinked once, then again, calculating. Then she smiled. A calm, practiced smile. The one she wore for press photos and donor galas. Someone is trying to ruin our day, she said sweetly. Clearly this woman, she nodded toward Mara, brought more than old drama. She brought a stunt. Julian's voice was ice. Answer the question, she exhaled through her teeth. It was in the original jewelry case. I assumed it was yours. Maybe you were trying to be symbolic. I've never seen this ring before today, he said, but she has. Mara met Isla's gaze across the room, and for the first time, Isla blinked first. That was the moment everything shifted. Julian turned to the crowd, raised his hands. Everyone give us a moment, please. The crowd hesitated. Then slowly the guests began to shuffle out, murmuring, confused, curious. Isla followed Julian with her eyes, cornered now. You want the truth, she said. Fine, but you better be ready for it. Julian's voice was low. I've been ready since the day I was lied to. And then Liam, the intern, reappeared at the edge of the room, his face pale. He held up Mara's envelope, now opened. Mara, he said, did you include a watch in here? Her blood froze. No, just the letter. Liam swallowed hard. There's a watch now, tucked into the lining. He handed it to Julian. It was the watch. The watch. The one Mara was accused of stealing. The one that sealed her sentence. The one Isla wore, now suddenly replaced. Julian turned it over slowly. The inscription on the back read, For Isla, cover it clean. He stared at it, then at Isla, and for the first time, his voice cracked. You knew what they did to her. You let it happen. You let me hate her. Isla didn't deny it. She just looked down, not in guilt, but in strategy. And then she whispered something no one expected. She's not the only one with secrets. A slow silence spilled into the room. Mara watched her son, face pale, hands shaking, stare down at the watch that had stolen their life apart. He held it like it might burn him. Isla, Julian said, quieter now. What are you talking about? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped forward and closed the velvet box around the old ring, like sealing away a memory. I wasn't supposed to marry you, she said. Not at first. Mara's breath caught. Julian's brow furrowed. What? I was supposed to find you, she continued. Groom you, get close, bring you back under control. My mother needed your company aligned with certain political visions. But then something strange happened. She looked up at him, eyes suddenly wet. Not with guilt, but nostalgia. I actually fell in love. Mara's pulse jumped. You used him. I protected him, Isla snapped. They wanted to absorb Sinclair Plus into a defense contract shell. Julian wanted open access tech. I made sure his vision survived. I made sure he survived. Julian recoiled. You manipulated me. I saved you from being turned into a puppet. No, you tied my strings yourself, he said. You just made them prettier. A long, tense beat. Then Mara stepped forward. What secrets are you hiding, Isla? Isla looked at her, straight through her. I didn't plant the watch, she said, but I know who did. Julian stiffened. Who? Your grandfather, she said. Senator Prescott. He made sure you never saw your mother again. He was the one who gave me the old arrest files when I turned 18, said I could use them if things got complicated. Mara's lips parted. You were 18 when you got that file? You knew I was innocent all this time? I had my reasons, Isla said. You had your ticket. Isla didn't deny it. Julian turned to Mara, pain radiating from every pore. They built my life on a lie. And I let them. Mara stepped closer. But you built yourself, even through the fog. I don't know what's real anymore, he said. She reached out, gently placed her hand over his chest. This is. His breath shook. For a long, agonizing beat, no one spoke. And then quietly, Mara said, You don't have to go through with this. Isla's voice was sharp. What? You don't owe her a vow, Mara said. You don't owe anyone a lie. The room crackled with tension. Guests still loitered near the doors listening. Julian turned to Isla. his fiancée, his almost wife, the woman he nearly trusted with his legacy. "I need a moment," he said, but Isla stepped forward, desperate now. "If you walk away, you'll destroy everything we built." "No," he said. "If I stay, I destroy me." He turned to Mara. "Come with me." And the two of them walked past the guests, through the garden, and down toward the lake where the wind carried nothing but truth. The sun had started to fall behind the cliffs. Julian sat on a bench near the water, his elbows on his knees, the old photo Mara had given him resting on his lap. Mara sat beside him, quietly. They didn't speak for a while. Then he said, "Do you remember the time I broke the neighbor's mailbox with my bike?" She smiled softly. "You blamed the dog," he chuckled once, broken and real. "I never asked you," he said. "Why Minerva 81? She looked at the lake. "Minerva is the Roman goddess of wisdom and war," he nodded. "And 81? She hesitated. "It was the number I wore in prison." Julian swallowed hard. She reached into her purse again and handed him something small, a key, old, brass, smooth from time. "I kept the apartment," she said. "It's tiny, cracked windows, but there's peace in it." He looked at it for a long time, and then, with a voice no one else could hear, he said, "I don't know if I can undo all the lies." "You don't have to," she said. "You just have to stop living inside them. If you're with us so far, tap like. What comes next changes everything." Back at the villa, Senator Prescott was on the phone, and he wasn't calling security. He was calling a crisis manager. The villa's library was locked, but Senator Prescott never needed a key. He closed the heavy oak door behind him and tapped a code into the side panel. A shelf slid open, revealing a slim briefcase lined in graphite leather. He placed it on the mahogany desk and dialed. "Get me everything we have on Sinclair Plus's ownership transfer protocols," he said coldly, "and flag any media with the keywords bride, watch, arrest, reunion. Scrub it. Tonight." He hung up, but someone had already beaten him. A thin man in tortoise-shell glasses appeared in the doorway. "We have a problem," the man said. "Define it." "The ring wasn't just a mistake," he said. "It was sent, planted, on purpose, with a note, anonymous, but traced to a signal near Minerva 81's HQ." Prescott's brow twitched. "She knew. Worse," the man replied. "She wasn't alone." Across the lake, in the guest house Mara rented under a false name, a second envelope sat unopened. This one was addressed not to Julian, but to the public. Mara had written 2 letters, one for her son, one for the world. A backup, because she knew how power worked, how easily the truth could be buried, erased, or rewritten by the very people who'd written the lies in the first place. Inside the second envelope was everything. Copies of the falsified police report, the original surveillance footage showing Isla's mother placing the stolen watch in Mara's locker. The adoption transfer forms with Julian's birth name scratched out and rebranded as Prescott affiliated, and tucked between the pages, a single photo of Senator Prescott holding Julian at a fundraiser. 2 weeks after Mara's sentencing, despite publicly claiming he never met the child, back at the lake, Julian stared at the key Mara had given him. A simple object, but in his hand it felt like a detonator. "I was raised in a mansion," he said, "but the only place that ever felt real was that memory of our tiny apartment. I can't remember the floor or the windows, just your voice telling me stories." He looked up. "And now that I know they were lies, all of them, what do I do with that?" Mara placed a hand over his. "You build forward, and you tell it straight, even when it costs you." And then his phone buzzed, one message from an unknown number. Subject line, "Before you say your vows, watch this." He hesitated, opened it. The screen filled with shaky footage, a hidden cam recording from over a decade ago. Senator Prescott in an office, talking to someone off-screen. "Get her out of the way. We'll say she stole it. The courts won't blink." Then Isla's voice. "And the kid, Prescott. Adopt him, groom him, shape the story." Isla. "And what if the mother comes back?" Prescott. "She won't." The clip ended. Julian stood, slowly. Mara watched his face pale, then harden. "You okay?" she asked. "No." Then softer. "But I'm awake." Inside the villa, the press had arrived early. Someone leaked the guest list. Someone leaked the video. And the first headline had just dropped. "Billionaire groom's real mother banned from wedding. Bride linked to frame-up." Mara's phone buzzed. New message. Unknown sender. No words. Just an attachment. A PDF file labeled Prenup, Isla and Julian, Final, Line 32. She opened it, read, and her heart stopped. Clause 32. If marriage is annulled within 72 hours due to material reputation damage, 51% of Sinclair Plus reverts to Prescott Holdings. Mara whispered, "Oh God, this wedding wasn't about love. It was a hostile takeover." The courtyard was too quiet now. Isla stood alone beneath the wedding arch, sheer curtains fluttering behind her like unraveling silk. Her bouquet lay abandoned on the marble step, petals crushed beneath a $1,000 heel. Phones rang in the distance, whispers spread like oil on water, and then footsteps, deliberate, calm, measured. Julian emerged through the archway, Mara just a step behind, her face unreadable. He looked straight at Isla and handed her something small, the watch. She didn't take it. "You knew what it meant," he said. "And you knew what it would do." Isla's mouth trembled, but she masked it with cold dignity. "I made a choice," she said. "For us, for the company, for the legacy." "It was never yours to build," he said, "and it sure as hell wasn't yours to steal." She tilted her chin. "So what now? You humiliate me, cancel everything, throw away years?" He paused, then shook his head. "No. You'll do that part yourself." He turned to the stunned guests. "This wedding is over," he said. And so is the silence. Murmurs erupted, flashes from phones. A few gasps. Senator Prescott stepped out from the crowd, lips pursed. "Son, I'm not your son," Julian snapped. "And I'm not your pawn. I've been lied to, bought and broken for too long, but not anymore." The senator tried to speak, but Mara stepped forward. "I'd sit down if I were you," she said. "You're about to be very Googleable." He froze. Because someone, Liam, had just uploaded the files. Not just to the cloud, to the press, to the platform of Sinclair Plus. A live stream had just gone live, already trending. The world was watching. Back near the lake, the string quartet had stopped playing, but now a soft voice picked up, someone humming. A guest, unknowingly, filled the silence with Claire de Lune, and it carried on the wind like a memory rewritten. Later, in the quiet that followed the fallout, Julian stood at the gates of his company headquarters. His team waited inside. Questions would come. Investors would panic. The media storm would rage. But something inside him had shifted. He looked at Mara. "I can't promise to be the son you remember." She smiled, small and steady. "I didn't come for a son. I came for a man." They stood in the silence together, watching as the sun set behind the towers of glass and code he had built, no longer as someone else's legacy, but now, fully as his own. Behind them, the prenup contract blew out of Isla's clutch bag, skittering across the pavement like a fallen crown. And the last line of the live stream chat read, "Truth has a way of walking in, even if you lock the doors." 6 months later, a modest cafe near the edge of Milan buzzed with quiet life. No cameras, no scandals, just the smell of roasted beans and the afternoon sun casting warm shadows over reclaimed wood. Mara sat by the window, stirring her espresso. She didn't check her phone. She didn't glance at the papers. She just watched people pass, smiling when strangers locked eyes. The bell over the door jingled. Julian walked in. No suit, no entourage, just a t-shirt, jeans, and a worn canvas backpack. He looked taller without the weight of pretending. She stood. He hesitated, then hugged her for the first time since he was 5. They sat, talked, laughed in little bursts. He told her how the company had weathered the storm, how some investors fled, but others, real ones, stayed. He launched a new division, Reclaim, a platform dedicated to exposing institutional injustice with smart tools, anonymous leaks, and human stories. He didn't name names. He let the truth speak, and he credited the first product release to M81. At one point, Mara handed him a small box. "Open it," she said. Inside was a cassette tape, handwritten label, "Story Time, age 5. "I found it," she said, "in the old apartment. You recorded it yourself, narrating a story you made up." He smiled. "What was it about?" "A boy," she said, "who thought his shadow was trying to steal his voice." "And how did it end?" "You'll have to listen." Outside, the day faded into gold. Julian stood beside her on the cobblestone street. "I don't know how to fix what they broke." "You don't fix it," she said. "You build beside it." He nodded, then reached into his backpack, pulled out a folded paper, a drawing, a new product prototype. A tactile reader for children with vision loss, designed to tell stories by touch. "Name idea?" he asked. She smiled. Echo. Far away on a marble shelf in a forgotten estate sat a wedding photo no one displayed anymore. But beside it, in a locked drawer, was a simple gold ring. And in the quiet night, if you listened close, you could almost hear it hum, like it was telling its story again. What would you have done in their place? Tell us below. If this gave you hope today, share it with someone who needs it.